Hi, I'm back in the garage and ready for the next stage on the stanchion bases. Jane will be joining me in a minute, but I'm just getting the setup right. Let's show you that. Okay, spun around. First important thing is some coffee while you check your plans. Got the router table. I can't find where I put the main fence, but this one's going to be better for what I'm doing here. So I've got clamped on fence with a very minimal cutout around the round over blade. Got the safety gloves, masks and ear defenders. So the goal is that that's the top edge, so we want the top edge to be rounded over on completely on those three sides. This side, which goes under the bulwark, under the cap, rubber cap of the bulwark, I'm just going to do a short length each side, but leave where it's at its thinnest, not rounded over. There's no way you can get a toe or anything there for you to worry about it being rounded over. So I've marked on the other side little lines on all of them, centre line there, so when we do that face we're just going to push until the lines line up there, and that will just do on the top side that little bit at the end. In terms of rounding these corners, I'm not yet sure quite how I'm going to do that. The grinder would take it off with a flapper wheel really quick, but it makes such a lot of mess. I'd rather find a different way to do it. What I have done is use the miter saw to cut off that edge, because we don't need all that long length there. So I cut those off flat, and those corners and these corners to round. Again, probably the miter saw to cut those off is relatively quick and doesn't make too much mess when I've got the vacuum on it. Okay, so that's the cunning plan. So it turns out that talking to camera is a good way to turn my brain on, and I realised as I was speaking that it's crazy not to cut the corners off before I round the top edge. So this is setting up in the miter saw to cut these sharp corners off, and basically I would like to cut a bit more off than where that line is, but I'm limited on where the clamp can go, so I don't want this to be off the edge because it will just slide. So that's as tight as I can make the clamping work successfully, to go down, cut that corner off and do so on all 12 before I then use the router. Got the vacuum hooked up to the miter saw. They never fit properly, can never get the right one, so just have to tape it on. Let's get this miter saw going. That vacuum cleaner. Oops. That vacuum cleaner is very, very loud. Oh, so is the saw. Right. Anybody bored enough to keep count will have noticed I only did 10 and not 12, and that's because we have two that we're using up FR4 that we already had, and these are a slightly smaller triangle, so I can't put that and clamp it, so those two I'll have to do differently. And the fact that we've got two that are narrower channels, triangles, fits with the fact that we are changing what's on the boat. So originally there were 10 stanchions, 5 a side. We're putting in 12, 6 a side. Isn't my maths good? And the reason we're doing that is that at the aft end, where there was a single stanchion between the push pit and the gate. We're going to have two, and the reason is that we're fitting two rail mounted solar panels. So we figured that it will be a much better fit if we have the stanchion, extra stanchion directly between the two and one at the end of those two, so that they're as well supported as possible, but also that we can keep them as far aft as possible so that we block the cockpit less. Long explanation, you'll see when we build it, but it means that actually 4 of the stanchions that we're putting in, 2 aside, are not on the original bases. So we'll use those triangles for 2 of those, and it means that we'll have to create a base fitted to the deck first, and I've got some FR4 on the boat that I can do that with, but we haven't done it yet. Okay, so we now have a little pile of ones that are cut, which way around? So that's the inboard edge, and now we can do a neat routing right around that, all those corners, and hopefully a bit of sanding after routing it, and those will look nice and clean, rounded and safe. Okay, time to call the boss in to help with the setting up the router. Well, to be fair, I'll do some vacuuming up of this dust first. See you in a minute. Okay, I had the quite brilliant idea of putting the vacuum cleaner itself outside the door, so it's a bit quieter. I'm going to see if I can position the camera to catch something while we're doing this. Okay, it's recording at 4K, so I should be able to zoom in, but I'm turning my microphone off because you don't need to hear all that horrible noise. Okay, so in the end, the fence wasn't really helping massively because the bit I was using in the router has got one of those wheels, and I was running the wheel along, which was working fine. What the fence did do was make sure that if I slipped or anything, this wasn't going to slide that way and my hands go into the blade. So it worked well from that perspective. And we've got those edges rounded. It's not the neatest rounding ever seen in the universe, and we'll probably go over it with the sander before we fit them. What I'm going to do now is, where they go down, I'm going to route out these circles, which will give a little bit more space for the thickened epoxy to grip it, and where the Forstner bit went through, you can see the white slight damage delamination as it went through the last bit. So we'll take the fence out of the way, drop each of these on the router blade, and if I remember correctly, depending on which side of the blade I push against, I have to go around in a different direction. I'll hopefully quickly learn which way around goes better. Okay, so we've got this board. I'm just going to do that one as a test. Look at that, perfect. And I can see other areas I'm going to use this. Now, I've just noticed I'm getting a bit of a lip there, so I'm just going to lower the blade down very slightly. Okay, that job's done, and we've managed to vacuum up all the FR4 dust. I definitely do not count myself as any kind of an expert when it comes to using a router. They still terrify me, but so don't follow my advice. But we're very pleased with the way that's come out, nice and round. So when it goes down, that will trap some thickened epoxy to glue the stanchion support in. These edges are not too bad. A little bit of work with the orbital sander and they will be nice. So we have our 12 bases all ready to put onto the boat, and by doing it in the garage at least we're able to contain the dust, collect it up and not leave it as a mess blowing around, more plastics in the sea. It can just be buried for 2,000 years. Okay, that's today's video. That's a wrap. Thank you very much for watching.